Thanks for joining us on Khari Free at Last on Bounce23 TV. A U.S. Department of Education Office of Civil Rights study compiled from 97,000 public schools across the nation says racial discrimination regarding disciplinary actions in schools disproportionately affects black girls. Joining me is TalkTainmentRadio.com host Reverend John Coates, Earth Jallow, and former school superintendent Dr. Lloyd Martin. This is a tragedy, Lloyd Martin. What's going on in the schools where black girls are now being made the target of discipline? Is it they are just victims of racism, or are they acting up when they come to school, meaning they get it from their parents? What's going on here?
I think they're victims of racism in many cases. Also, we have to consider the fact that many of the teachers who are dealing with the students who are victims of this racism are not able to relate culturally or socioeconomically with the students they serve.
Oh, come on now, Dr. Martin, look at here. Yeah. Look. The parents of these children, many of these children come to school cursing, they come to school acting out, they come to school giving you the finger, listening to Nicki Minaj, who's that other person? And all that other stuff. Rihanna, who you said was demon-possessed.
Yes, she is.
So you got all of that stuff, so, you know, wait a minute, why you want to blame it on the teachers?
No, but see, those things are symptoms of a much deeper issue.
What do you mean?
That much deeper issue stems from the racism that's been inherent in this society.
What's racism got to do with the children, with the child at home, Dr. Martin? Explain yourself. Help me to understand that.
Well, because when parents are not able to know how to parent, and they've been victimized by racism, it creates generational effects. And I think that the next students have not been taught by their parents, and it begins to manifest itself in the behavior of these students in this study.
You buy that?
No, because Dr. Martin keeps using the term parents, plural, when in most of cases, 70% as far as the black community is concerned, there's only a parent, and it's a parent that is ill-equipped to even raise their own child.
But how do you say that it takes a whole village to raise a child when you say because a person does not have two parents in the home, that parent cannot be effective in parenting?
The African proverb said that, and Hillary Clinton did say it after that.
Please, get out of here. She stole from Ghana. We ain't talking about that.
I believe in that concept, and that's where I think you brought up the point about society racism. That's where that plays in, that the society can't come together to then raise a child.
Coach, what role does the parent play in this?
But a parent plays a key, pivotal role.
Don't children imitate their parents?
Well, certainly, and I think that in the school system, children are imitating their parents. They're replicating what they see their parents do on the day in and day out basis. However, we need to understand that the parents are functioning under severe, unimaginable stress.
Well, let me just jump in here because, you know, I hear you both and I agree with both of you. However, we also have to take into consideration...
It's okay if you disagree with them.
Yeah, okay,
I disagree with both of them.
Okay, good. So, my thing is this, though. Stemming from the schools and going into the...
Rolling pants down.
And going into the schools, we have to look at the fact that the school-to-prison pipeline. And if you're going to eliminate the young boys, which we all know is being done in the school system by the third grade, they're disenfranchising the African-American boys, then the next step would be to start eliminating the African-American females. Come on now, we have to. They have to fill these privatized prisons.
Wait a minute, but hold on here. Now, if the mama's at home cursing, if the mama's at home, you know, doing the snip or whatever it is, drinking or something, don't you think that child is going to imitate that behavior and bring all that to the school? Now, the teacher got to cope with that, then the teacher gets called a racist. Help me to understand this, Lloyd Martin.
There are several cases where young people have lived in those environments who've been able to transcend those environments and do even greater things, even though their parents were at home cussing, smoking, drinking, or whatever.
You know,
what, 1%?
But you're using smoking and cussing as an example, but the real example is that there's violence in their community. Right. The real example is that they're going to school without having a meal in the morning that causes distraction to take place as well. Is
that the parents?
It's the parents.
But if they're economically disenfranchised and they're poor, which we know that a lot of these urban schools are poor, they're living below the poverty level, then absolutely.
And what's preventing a mama from giving her child oatmeal in the morning?
But wait,
they
maybe
can't
she
afford
don't
the
have
oatmeal.
no oatmeal.
The food stamps won't pay for no oatmeal?
Maybe they don't have them. You know, they're cutting food stamps. You know that. How much of them cut food stamps did they cut? But you're not going to buy something to feed your child affordable in the morning so your child can go to school with a hot meal. If you have not had that, Okay, and you're surviving. We're not talking about people who are living. We're talking about people who are surviving.
It's a dependence on the system to feed your child.
So then when your child gets to school and the child gets some breakfast.
You depend on the system to feed your child breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Even if you do depend on the system, in Chicago, Illinois, they have to create safe pathways for students to get to school. So there is
wait a minute, hold that point. Wow, shocking, shocking, just shocking. Up next, Khari, free at last. Welcome back to Khari, free at last. The U.S. Department of Education Office of Civil Rights Study also found that black children are suspended at shockingly high rates. 12% of black girls received an out-of-school suspension compared to only 2% of white girls. That means 6 times the rate. 20% of black boys have been suspended compared to 6% of white boys. Joining me is TalkTainmentRadio.com host John Coates, Irv Jallow, and former school superintendent Dr. Lloyd Martin. Dr. Martin, black girls are being suspended at 6 times the rate of white girls. Now, wait a minute. One could look at that and say it's racial discrimination. I get it. But on the other hand, are there behavioral differences between white girls when they come to school and black girls? Is there a big difference?
I think it's not necessarily a difference in behavior. I think it's a difference in treatment of those behaviors, primarily because many of the teachers who are in our schools look like the white students who are not being suspended. So they're less likely to take exception to behaviors that...
Now, white teachers make up about 72% of the teachers in largely black school districts. Okay.
Primarily. So that behavior that would be okay in one environment may be misunderstood in another.
So what you're telling me is that it's okay for black girls to come to school and act out, and then black teachers are going to deal with it differently? Is that what you're saying?
They may perceive it as not acting out.
As not acting out.
Right.
You know, that number is so fascinating. 6 times more likely to be suspended. When we look at states like California, black women are 6 times more likely to be arrested compared to white women, and 4 times more likely than Hispanic women to be arrested and incarcerated.
But why?
Because of targeting. And we know for a fact that they count the number of prison cells based on 3rd grade proficiency testing.
Right.
We know that.
Right.
But they are teaching women now to become more male-like.
Yes.
You see them lifting weights. Every television series almost has women beating up 4 or 5 men.
A bad girl scenario.
Shooting men, stabbing them, beating them up, kicking them around, karate. I mean, you name it. Y'all being, but yet at the same time, y'all want to have violence against women and domestic violence and hold us accountable. But you're training women to be men. And so someone is conditioning women to play out the scripts that they see in television and the movies. Because that's what happens. It's fiction. That's how they learn. And it's real life that will imitate. Television is the #1 teacher. Yeah. It surpassed schools long time ago. Right. So they reflect these images, Irv Jallow. So how do we begin to address this issue with black girls?
You know, I'm with Dr. Martin here, who said that when the teacher before you...
What do you mean you with Dr. You ain't got your own mind? What you mean? Dr. Martin. Forget Dr. Martin. Be with your mind.
Of you, okay?
I mean, she's wise.
Yeah, see? You got to get with people who are smarter than you.
John,
however, he's correct. No. But however, when I'm in the school systems, and he's right. When there's a behavior from a black student, a black young girl that comes and she is acting out, when I get her,
acting out is acting out.
No, because there's problems with us that are not being addressed.
John,
hunger, sexual abuse, economic disparities.
See, that's the problem.
What's the problem?
That's the problem now.
These children have issues today that we did not have. And when they come to school, you have to be able to recognize that. And if you don't live in the community, if you don't talk like them, if you are unaware of what these issues are, then you are definitely going to deal with those issues.
You mind that, John?
And let the church say amen.
Amen.
That's good.
Is this an excuse?
No, it's not an excuse. It's reasoning. There's a difference between an excuse and a reason.
Oh, I like that, man. Wait a minute. Oh, that was classic.
Oh, thank you so very much. Thank you. Thank you. I was inspired.
I just want you to know that you ain't gonna get away with that. But anyway, what do you mean?
Well, what she says is we are conditioned in society a certain way, and we cannot ignore the environmental pressures that's on black parents, black men and women in society, and the children.
Okay, so when black men and women smoke dope at home, when they curse at home like sailors, when they engage in other kinds of behaviors that are inappropriate in front of a child, and I'm not saying white parents don't do it too, I'm not saying that, but when black parents and the black child emulates that, then that's our excuse?
What's the percentage of the black parents that's doing all these
It reminds me,
things?
a white friend of mine told me the other day, she grew up with white children.
White friend of mine told me?
Told me, a white friend of mine told me the other day that she grew up with black students and they were her friends. But the one thing she couldn't understand is that when they got off the bus, that the black kids would fight each other. And she never understood that. But that's an issue. It's
now,
a problem.
Dr. Lloyd Martin has laid this squarely at the foot of racism. That's what he's saying. Now, document, for example, using John's example, why would they fight each other? Is that racist also?
I think that many times it's because of a self-hatred that we have for ourselves. And because we do not love ourselves, have not been taught to love ourselves, we tend to demonstrate negative energy towards someone else who may look like us. But to go a step further with that conversation, just like we're talking today and we're using our hands. In some cultures, us using our hands could be threatening to that other person. So that person may call the police, have me removed from the school because I came up to the school with my slippers on and my hand rollers and started talking with my hand talking loud. When that person really wasn't a threat. So cultural differences also play into a factor in terms of who's been suspended and by how much.
Well, thank you for telling us that, because I thought Earth was threatening me because she talks loud and she moves her hands. I thought she was throwing a karate chop over this direction.
So is that racist?
Because I didn't know.
But Dr. Martin, is that racist because you may not understand, or is there a cultural competency issue?
Well, I think that racism, when you use your position to deny someone access, when we use our position to deny kids access to education merely because of a behavior, we're denying that child an opportunity to get an education.
Are you saying that white teachers, wait a minute, are you saying that white teachers see black children as inferior, as intellectually inferior, incapable of learning, and they purposely suppress their learning? Is that what you're saying, Dr. Martin?
I'm saying some may feel that way, yes.
Is that true, Earth?
Yes.
Yes, don't mean yes. Yes, meaning what?
Give me a second. But yes, that is very, very true. When I go into the schools and I have students who come to me and they tell me that the teachers are talking to them wrongly, like, you know, oh, you're not going to do that in here. You can do that down in your hood or something like that.
I've heard about the teacher's lounge.
Yeah, and the teacher's lounge.
When you go in there, they call them little monsters, little beasts.
Monkeys, little beasts, and everything
I've
like
heard
that.
About that.
You know, the students feel this. They know when you don't like them. How can you teach somebody that you don't like?
You know, and teaching's like law enforcement. How can you effectively police a community, protect the community?
But John, this is the post-racial America.
And you don't live. Who told you
John,
that? Who told you? Did you buy into the CNN, MSNBC rhetoric? Because of the election of Barack Obama,
told us it was post-racial America.
They lied to you again. They lied to you again. No, it ain't no.
You can buy the Golden Gate Bridge for me this afternoon.
Cash, please.
Please, cash. I thought all this was over with.
No. A study of 97,000 schools.
The African-American prison pipeline. Up next on Khari, Free at Last. Welcome back to Khari Free at Last. The most disturbing aspect of the study are the rates at which black preschool-age children are suspended. The study says racial disparities in school discipline policies actually began during preschool, creating the school-to-prison pipeline in urban school districts. My goodness. Joining me is TalkTainmentRadio.com host, all three of them, the Reverend John Coates, Earth Jallow, and former school superintendent, Dr. Lloyd Martin. Good gracious, Dr. Martin. Wait a minute, babies. I mean, what does a baby know about acting up? And they're suspending, creating this notion that little black children are criminals?
Bad.
Is that where we're going with this?
Well, when we went to zero tolerance, that meant they wasn't tolerating zero from kids that don't look like them. So that was a code? That was a code word that we're going to make this place, makes children conform to
these black children under control.
Yeah. Black, Latino,
and poor whites if necessary.
Yes, right, and Appalachian and whatever, because you're going to conform to this structure, and we don't care what it is. So it's zero tolerance, and anything you do is reason to put you out of here.
But the argument can also exist that, okay, we're gonna have you conform to rules and regulations where obviously your parents aren't giving you any at home. Young children.
There you go, picking on the parents again.
Well, okay, young children just aren't acting out violently, but they're sexually acting out in these preschools as well.
What are you implying? Wait a minute. What are you implying here, Reverend?
Well, I'm implying.
Be careful now. What are you saying?
I'm implying that the environment that they're being raised in, all of the Beyonce and the Rihanna and the Chris Brown and everything that they're watching in media, and you see them acted out in their dancing and in their movement and in their gyrations. Why wouldn't they go to school? Why would not they go to school in preschool and put their hands on a little girl's behind?
And so they carry. You're saying they carry on that same behavior because they don't know how to.
It's entertainment.
They don't know how to code
That's how they're being conditioned. The mama's sitting watching BET and VH1 with the child, and these children are acting out the same thing that they see on television, and mom and daddy nodding their head too.
Were they acting out when they put the kid because she wanted to wear an afro? Was that acting out?
Hello.
When they kicked it, when they kicked the little girl because she wanted that.
She had to cut her hair.
No, that was not acting out.
So she was a victim of a system that did not want locks in their school.
Hello.
Yeah. She was.
So, therefore, this whole argument that somehow it's everyone else's fault, sometimes the fault has to be where it's at. Where it is where until our teachers understand and can relate to who they serve, it's going to be some difficulty.
Now take that to the bank,
Well, the system's not going to save us. And if we don't provide direct intervention into our own homes, into our own community, we're doomed.
Who is we,
you
John?
and me and mama and daddy and the pastor and the and school teachers that live in the community and have concern, and it's not going to happen.
I thought that was Hillary.
What do you mean?
He said the village. When I was the village a little while ago.
I was just referring to the quote. Just referring to Dr.
Yes.
Lloyd Martin and John are at loggerheads here. They're saying kind of two different things. Where do you fall?
Well, I fall with this. When you are suspending and expelling and putting out into peak elementary students from grades...
No, I'm talking about preschool.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. Preschool, elementary, preschool students. Then I think that you are setting them up because those suspensions and expulsions go on their record, on their permanent record, and it follows them. It follows them throughout school.
You know what they're creating? Criminals in the crib.
Yes.
Wait a minute. I just coined something. Criminals in the crib.
I like that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I get a good one off every now and then.
That's your next book, right?
But that's what they're creating.
They are. They really are.
But let's look at this whole school-to-prison pipeline again. Now that we have prisons full of people of poverty and diversity, now we need to move it to expand more prisons, so we need to think of a way to get more folks going there, so now we can identify girls.
So now you're bringing back girls.
Got to get the girls.
And what we do know is that prison population in states that have major urban areas have increased since 1990 to 2012 by 76%.
Let's go back to the girls. Are girls being programmed to be violent? Yes. Dr. Martin said something. Give me a chance to explain it. Are they being programmed to be violent like males?
They are.
And even more?
Yes, absolutely. When they are sitting around watching Bad Girls Clubs and what's that other one? Real Wives of Hollywood and Real Wives of all these other places.
And all the television series.
And the grown women are on television with money, acting like animals, fighting one another, jumping across the table to attack one another. Then these girls are not they're not mature enough to differentiate what is real and what is only for television. Dr. Martin,
you said something that really caught my ear. You said when women get mad, they're even more violent. What did you mean? Break that down a little bit real quick.
Well, I'm telling you, as in my experiences, when I would see young ladies get into a confrontation that was physical, they would be using weapons, razor blades, mace, pulling, and just doing anything they can to really hurt each other. With young men, we spend our time styling and profiling, and girls get it on. And
they're pulling hair, they're scratching, they're stomping on their heads,
they're doing everything they can to hurt each other. So I think this whole manifestation of violence has been transformed send it over to females acting more violent than males to show that they're tough and they're hard and I can handle my business.
That's exactly what we see on television.
Black women constitute the greatest growth in the prison industrial complex.
Wow.
And they're not building prisons, they're occupying prisons.
Give me some numbers. Give me some numbers.
Again, prison expansion has taken place by 76%, and that growth has been the majority black women.
Wow. So what we're seeing here is that by targeting them when they're young, you are producing criminals in the crib, which justifies and keeps the prison industrial state growing. What can parents do about this?
Well, first of all, I think we need to understand that the prison industrial state will become the prison manufacturing complex real soon because they have to do something with all these inmates in order to generate some capital.
Irv Jallow, what message do you send to mostly females who are raising these children? What do you want to say to them quickly?
Quickly, please get mentors. Raise your daughters. Teach them how to be ladies, young ladies. Don't let them watch the television like that. It's ridiculous.
Zero tolerance. A race code? Up next on Khari, Free at Last. Welcome back to Khari, Free at Last. The rate of school suspensions has doubled since the 1970s as growth and zero-tolerance policies has gripped school districts around the United States. But studies show that the policy has serious derogatory implications. Students who are suspended even once are significantly more likely to drop out of school. Is zero tolerance a race code? Joining me is TalkTainmentRadio.com host John Coates, Reverend John Coates, Irv Jallow, and former school superintendent Dr. Lloyd Martin. Dr. Martin, you mentioned zero tolerance. Is zero tolerance, in my book, I talked about it being a race code war. Is it designed specifically to address urban schools? Because we never heard it when it was talked about with rural and suburban. This is all designed to suppress and control black students. Am I right? Black children, black people. Is that right?
People of color and diversity and poverty. Because that's where these zero tolerance policies have been implemented in large urban districts. Zero tolerance, it became a code word for putting students out of the system. But my biggest thing with zero tolerance is the fact that once a kid does not get access to education, they fall behind, they become more frustrated, they act out more, they become more frustrated, and they put kids on a cycle of failure where they end up dropping out. 7,000 kids a day drop out of school. Wow. In America. Every 29 seconds, a kid drops out of school.
Let me ask you this, Reverend Coates, how much are we supposed to take, though? Shouldn't we have a standard about what we will accept, and now we just let them come there and create mayhem?
We certainly should have a standard, and what's happening is that you don't have to be arrested by the police department in order to get a rap sheet now. You can have a school system generated rap sheet that will follow you for the rest of your life. In the 1980s,
they've always done that.
In the 1980s, Dr. Juwanza Kunjufu wrote a book entitled Countering the Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys. Well, we could rename it now, Young Black Boys and Black Girls, and we need to counter it.
And this new stroke to black girls, what is that saying to you? First of all, do you support the idea of zero tolerance?
No, absolutely not.
You don't think there should be any standards?
I don't think that there should be...
Do as thou wilt,
Alistair Crowley.
But the zero tolerance is not working for us because we have special circumstances that we deal with.
Should we have standards?
Absolutely,
What kind of standards?
Standards that say that when it's time to go to school, you come prepared. That means your pencil, your paper, your book bag, whatever you need to succeed for that day.
So what you're saying is there's certain behavior, so what you're telling me is that certain behaviors should not be tolerated. You're in the classroom, so certain behaviors should not be tolerated. For example, give me an example.
You can't come to school and curse out your teacher. You can't come to school unprepared. You have to come to school with the...
That sounds like zero tolerance.
No. Zero tolerance.
What's the difference?
The difference between what I'm saying is zero tolerance is if a student has an infraction, I'm not going to suspend them or put them out of school where they're missing that educational component that they need. That's why they're there. You find out what the problem is and you deal with it with that student.
So they set up special schools. So they've set up special schools to send the kids that have gotten taken up.
No, y'all not hearing me.
You guys keep dealing with the symptom when We need to deal with the social, emotional aspects that cause this behavior.
We're dealing with the behavior.
The symptom is, that's the symptom. The way I'm behaving is the symptom of a much deeper social, emotional issue.
So you got to get to that.
But there are no resources being placed on of dealing with these kids on a social, emotional level.
Yeah, they have resources. No. They give them Ritalin. They give them psychotropic drugs.
These children are depressed.
To prepare them to be drug addicts
Just like adults, just like we have a depressed adults, we have a plethora of depressed students. You can't just kick
What's that word?
Plethora.
Oh, I love it.
You cannot just kick out
that
students.
That means big, a lot of them.
That's why they're medicating them.
There is a reason why. And we have, when I'm dealing with children who look like me, I'm talking to them. Let them, communication is the key to opening up the door to solve the problem, to healing.
And
that's why the system's
when I'm talking to any child, I need to understand something that motivates this child to behave in one way or another. If I find out a kid has an issue, a social-emotional issue, it becomes my obligation as an educator
What I hear you saying is take racism out and humanize the district.
That's it.
For all people.
That's it for everybody.
All right, thanks to TalkTainmentRadio.com host Irv Jallow, the Reverend John Coates, and Dr. Lloyd Martin. And thank you for watching Khari, free at last on Bounce23 TV.